How the hell do you see that? If you're a police officer and somebody's saying there's somebody crawling, don't you run to the scene and take the guy out or do something? I mean, I can't believe it. They're showing you the video. There is a Trump supporter taking video of a guy crawling in military fashion with a weapon and a backpack right on the roof. Here's President Trump addressing the assassination attempt a few days ago. Go.
Former President Donald Trump speaking out overnight after arriving in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention.
Take a look at what happened.
Just 24 hours after his attempted assassination by a gunman at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The former president discussing what he called a very surreal experience with the New York Post, saying, "I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead." Earlier in the night, President Biden addressing the nation from the Oval Office, urging all Americans to reject political violence.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions.
Footage and first-hand accounts of the shooting show an apparent breakdown in security leading up to the attempt on Mr. Trump's life.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look.
This new video emerging of the shooter earlier in the rally.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have...
The crowd reacting as they see the shooter crawling on the roof.
How the hell do you see that? If you're a police officer and somebody's saying there's somebody crawling, don't you run to the scene and take the guy out or do something? I mean, I can't believe it. They're showing you the video. There is a Trump supporter taking video of a guy crawling in military fashion with a weapon and a backpack right on the roof. What does it take? Go ahead.
Just outside of a protected perimeter, some 150 yards from the former president. It's right there in that brown building where that would-be assassin climbed up on the rooftop and took his position. Valerie Fennell, who was standing just below, shared these photos. She says the lack of security she saw surprised her, pointing to this gate, secured by zip ties.
No, there was no security on this side at all.
Are you shocked you're this close to the president that there was no security?
I kept asking her. Thinking about it now, yes.
Authorities say the gunman fired multiple shots before he was killed by a Secret Service counter-sniper team. The shooter identified by the FBI as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. The FBI has not identified a motive. Investigators say they have no indication Crooks had any mental health issues. Previously unknown to law enforcement, the 20-year-old was a registered Republican who, according to campaign finance reports, donated $15.
I think Oswald was a registered Democrat, by the way. Just so you know. And by the way, before we move on, no excuses. Understand, I'm not saying. These schools need to do something about these kids who are being bullied. The other day I read about a young girl, 15 years old, who committed suicide because she was being bullied in school. If you're going to force these kids to go into these public schools, then you need to protect them. I'm not saying coddle them. We've all dealt with bullies. But some people can't handle it. Again, no excuses. I'm not making any excuses, but it's funny how nobody talks about this. And more we're getting these kids who are sort of nerdy and or have funny names or a funny look or a different look, or who may not be good at sports or something like that. You can't send a kid into an environment like that and then all these punks are pushing him around and bullying him. Again, no excuses. I'm not making any excuses. I'm just bringing up another fact of life that I think needs to be addressed. Rather than pushing pornography and their left-wing propaganda and all the rest, focus on what the hell's going on in these schools and these classrooms. Go.
Former classmate Jason Kohler describes the 20-year-old as a loner who was regularly bullied for wearing hunting gear and a surgical mask to class.
He would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast.
The shooting claimed the life of 50-year-old firefighter Corey Compentor, who died shielding his wife and daughter from the gunfire.
Corey died a hero.
2 others were also shot and are in stable condition. 57-year-old David Dutch and 74-year-old James Koppenhaver. Melody Hook was sitting with her children behind Mr. Trump when the shooting started.
What can we learn or take away from this, do you think?
We need to be praying.
We need to be praying for our country and our children, and hold your kids close.
I want to point out also, when you look at the bleachers, after the president was shot, after the hero was murdered, and the other two were critically wounded, those people didn't panic. They stayed exactly where they are. Some of them were up in their chairs looking at what was taking place. In other words, when you see panic scenes, usually everybody's running for the gates, everybody's running, they've heard bullets. They stayed in place. Now, maybe they were ordered to, but who could have stopped them? It's very interesting. This will all be broken down over time. Go ahead.
Right now, the FBI believes that the shooter did act alone. As for those victims, foundations have been set up to help with fundraising to cover their costs, and former President Trump has indicated he hopes to personally reach out to them and offer his condolences.
Which he already did. It's reported this morning that Joe Biden attempted to call the widow of Corey Carpenter, and she wouldn't take his call. She said Corey would not want me talking to him, that he was big Trump, big Republican. She wouldn't take his call. I can't say I blame her. I cannot think of another campaign, honestly, where the name Hitler has been used so often. And the Democrats, as I've told you before, they've used it against Barry Goldwater. They used it against Nixon. They used it against Reagan often. Not so much the Bushes, but they use it against Trump. That's their go-to mass murderer, genocidal dictator name that they use all the time. Look, you can't keep calling, as I said on radio and as I've said, you can't keep calling somebody Hitler. Or let me put it differently. Why do you keep calling somebody Hitler? What kind of reaction do you think you're going to get? You know there are nut jobs out there, so why do you keep doing it? Again, you can't make the direct connection here, but so what? It's predictable. Something is bound to happen. Let me put it to you another way. The effort since 2015 to dehumanize Donald Trump has been systematic. It has been repetitive. It has been in the free media and the paid media. It has been a chorus line for the Democrat Party and their media to dehumanize Donald Trump. Even when you look at the filings against him by these DAs and by the Department of Justice through their unconstitutional special counsel, the things they say, which are so dishonest, are unbelievable.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.